Hello folks, welcome to video number 21 from a breezy Donegal. Well, you wouldn't know where it was, just someone's back garden, but I'm up in Kildare in Donegal, a great part of the country. The sun's shining, but unfortunately it's a wee bit breezy, so I don't know if it'll affect the audio of this. So I'm going to continue with the revision of the short form, and then as usual just looking at the long form. So what we did last week, then we ended up in short form in the hand strum to loop position. So I'm going to break the repulse monkey, the back stepping section down today, and I'm going to have a look at how we get into the grasp and the sparrow's tail. Okay, so if we take it from where we left off last week, okay, but we're in this empty stance on the heel. Probably not see the feet too well here, but you know, this foot 45 degrees, this one empty stance on the heel, and that was the posture we finished with last week, hand strum to loop. So to break this down then, I'm going to break it down first with what's happening in the lower body. So you turn the hips diagonal, and then left foot, keeping the weight forward in the right leg. The left foot extends back, toes first, and then once the heel goes down, you sit back and square the hips. Okay? And then again, to the right, leaning forward into the left, and then again, sit back, square the hips each time. So we turn, step, and shift. And then one more of those, always squaring the hips at the end. Turn, step, and shift. Okay, so we're back in the right leg. Most of the weight sitting back in the right leg on a stone. So we do that from here, so as you can see what's happening. Okay, so empty stance on the heel, root in the right leg. So we turn, and then with the weight forward, step back, toes first, sit back and square the hips. Turn to the other side, again, root into the left, keep the weight there as the right foot goes back, toes first, sit back, square the hips. And there's 4 of these steps which will leave you at the end with the root back in the right leg and what we'll call back stance, so sitting back into the leg. You know, this one's relatively light. Not as light as it would be an empty stance. So then we'll look at what's happening there with the upper body as well. Okay, so there's our opening stance from last week. So when I open the hips, hands are just flatten. Both hands, this one just at a right angle from the body, well not quite, just out to the side, just naturally out. And the other one forward. Okay, so from our hand strum to loop position, get a wee bit more forward here. We open. Now looking at this hand, as you can see, that arm's going to fold like this, and as it does that, that's when I'll do the step back. So I'm still forward here, as you can see, and then when I pull back, that left elbow pulls into the side as the right hand pushes out. And then we open to the other side. As you can see, looking at the left hand now, as it folds, I'm stepping back with the right, and then once it's there, the right one pulls into the side as the left hand. Each time I'm squaring the hips at the end there. So stages, open, looking at the hand as the arm folds, step back, and then just follow that forward with the eyes, squaring the hips at the end. And then the last one, open, step, and shift. So there's your back stance at the very end. So what we're going to do here is to get into the first position then of the grasp and the sparrow's tail, and then we'll look at the grasp and the sparrow's tail in its entirety next week. So we're going to step in here, heel to heel, and turn the hips diagonal. And then, like a lot of the stepping in the form, it's a matter of opening the hip out to the side to get that length and width of the stance, and then you'll come forward again into your bow stance position. So if you're just looking at that from another angle, okay, so there's our last position. The hips are square this way, turn as we step in, open the hip out to the side, and then we're back in bow stance again. Okay, so if you're looking at that just from the point of view of the last position where we're in, getting into the next one, as you do that step in and turn the hips, you're holding the ball, right hand up, stepping out, and then you're coming forward, and the hands are just passing. So the left palm will end up in front of the throat, the right one down the side, 2/3 of the weight forward, bow stance basically. So if you're looking at that from where we were there in the last repulse monkey, looking at it from this angle, okay, so that's our last repulse monkey, the back stance. So as we step in, turning the hips, we hold the ball, so right hand sternum, left hand dantian below the navel, and then we open the hip out to the side, and as we come forward, the hands pass. And that would be our finished posture for this week, just the single ward off with the left palm facing the throat, the right one down at the side. So I'll go through that a couple of times, just for one time from this angle, the next time from coming towards you, moving away from you, doing the whole sequence. Okay, so here's our first position, where we left off last week. Hands strum the lute. Okay, so just in silence here. Okay, so looking at that same section again then, just from a different perspective, different angle. Okay, so there's our hands from the lute, where we left off last week. So from here, up the ward off. Okay, so leave it there for this week in terms of that section. Just things to watch out for, just a couple of wee things there, because this is your first real encounter with backstabbing. So that thing that I was talking about before, where if you're in any of the postures, when you're stepping back, try not to move with it, try not to shift the weight at the same time, you know. So when you're stepping back to place the foot, it's actually almost like you're leaning forward a wee bit, you know. So if you look at that from the point of view of what's happening with the hand here, you'll notice that when I'm stepping back, the left hand sort of extends just slightly forward, just to emphasize that, and then when I sit back, that's when it draws in. So just watch out for that. The other thing that if you're used to doing long form and you're trying to pick up short form, is this thing about looking at the hands that we don't do, you know, like in repulse monkey in long form would be basically keeping our attention ahead of ourselves all the time, whereas in short form it's just that's the distinction, the difference. Again, if you're used to doing long form, then you'd be looking sort of following the hands all the time, you know, the one that's going to be eventually pushing. type thing. So just wee things like that, wee differences that are just something to keep an eye on. So yes, so we're away, and I will see you next week from the same location probably, and it'll probably still be windy and sunny. Funny that, isn't it? So have a fantastic week and enjoy your practice, everyone, and all the best. Okay, so short form dispensed with, long form. So last week in the long form we had done that big long repeat section. It's a huge chunk out of part two. After you do the three, snake creeps down, getting gradually lower into the low. The three cloud hands going into the low, snake creeps down, and then when you come out of that after the golden cockerel or the pulse monkey, and then we'll hit that big repeat section. So that repeat section brings us up towards the end of the form. So I'd say over this week and next week we'll round up the form. So I want to look today then at what comes immediately after where we left off last week. So we did, if you remember, we came out of that big long section and we went into two cloud hand steps, the shortest cloud hands in the form, and then we ended up in single whip again. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the next section. A wee bit of work involved in it. Okay, so this is our last position from last week then, single whip. Okay, now the next bit that's coming up is a wee bit of a repeat. It's the first part of it is what you would do is when you're going into the kicks in part two. Okay, so the half step with the hips diagonal, sitting back as the arm folds, and then stepping into an empty stance on the ball of the foot. Now this is in part two. You would do the high pot on horse. Okay, so you do it at the same time as you're squaring the hips. There's the high pot on horse. But then where it changes, we step back out to get our width, and as we come forward, this hand just comes over the top, and this is called inspecting horse's mouth. Okay, so we're going to that point after single whip. So half step, sit back as the arm folds, step up, turn around as the hips square, and then step out and high pat on horse. So from there, we're turning, get into this cross hand position, root in the right leg, so the left foot's going to pull around with you. You're going to sit back, separate, and then we're going to kick with the heel into this direction. Then we're going to step down, the right foot goes out diagonal, left hand comes to the centre of the chest. Okay, now here we take as long a step as possible and we come in. This is a wee bit like the low punch that you did in part two, where you come forward, sweep past the knee and punch down. This time the punch is straight ahead. Okay, so you come forward into this position here. Okay, so just to do that from where we left off. Single whip, half step, high pot on horse, inspecting horse's mouth, turn, cross hands, separate, kick, step out, left hand at the chest, hidden fist with the right, and then straight out. Now what you'll do from here is a wee bit of a repeat. This ward off and pressing down move where you go into the diagonal, but then you're going to sweep and step, and here the key to this section is to try to keep the stance as low as possible so you get into a longer, lower position when you come forward, and from here it's grasping the sparrow's tail. Okay, all out of part one, only as I say, it's done on a longer and lower stance. So we're look right. And again, try and get the step as long and low as possible, because what you're going to do is go into another snake creeps down. So from here, the right heel pushes back, the right foot, so the front of the foot facing out into the diagonal, and we come down, putting the left foot down into that position of snake creeps down. And then to get out of it like you would earlier on in the form, the left foot turns out diagonal, the right foot pulls around, and then you're going to step up into an empty stance on the ball of the foot. This is where we're going to finish this week. So the hands, fists crossed, left and top, and this is the position called stepping up to 7 stars. Okay, so we're going to run to there this week, and then next week we'll have a look at the end, what's after that, running up to the end of the form. Okay. So if we look at it just from a different angle here, okay. So probably what I'll do is, Susan coming towards you, I'll do the single whip where we finished off last week, facing this way, okay. So I'm coming towards the camera. So actually I'll do the first part. I'll do the first part of the facing you, so as you can see what's happening with the inspecting horse's mouth section, okay? And then I'll turn into the other direction. So there's our single whip from last week. This is where we finished last week. So as you do earlier in part 2, earlier on in part 2 of the form, half step this here, sitting back, and then high pot on horse. And then we step back out to get width, and as we come forward, inspecting horse's mouth. Okay, so this is where we do this turn, crossing hands, separate, and heel kick. Okay, so I'll do it as if I've just done that turn from here. You know, after inspecting horse's mouth. So there's the turn coming towards you. Separation, and then the heel kick. Now here, this hand will come down, okay? This one will come to the central chest, it'll come down onto the heel, and it'll roll the weight into that leg, keeping the hidden fist. And then this is the point I'm talking about, where you really sink into this leg and get that one extended as far forward as you can go. And then remember here, this is a straight punch rather than punching down. Okay, and then that wee separation you've done earlier on in part 2, and then here. Still the shot? Good stuff. Okay. So again, that's a wee bit of a longer, lower stance. Okay, and from here, it's all grasping the sparrow's tail. The only difference is it's just on a wee bit longer, lower. And then you're going to end up doing the whole thing right through a long, low single whip. Okay, and you know where you are there where the snake creeps down. You stepped a wee bit longer for the single whip. So this right foot, sorry, the heel first pushes back, and then the right foot turns out into the diagonal. And you come down just as low as is comfortable into that right leg, bringing the left hand down inside like this. And then when you come forward, this hand sort of reaches up, the right foot pulls around, and then as you do that step, the right hand coming up underneath, and both hands fists. Okay, so that's it. That's the whole thing in its entirety, okay? From the 2 different angles. So, yeah, but a bit of turning there, because there's sections where my back is to you. So when I'm doing this again in silence, I'll compensate for that, so as you can see what's going on. So we'll do from the first angle first, then, just in silence, from where we left off last week. Okay. So our single whip position. Okay, so from just to show you the start of that section from this angle here, get into the first the high potting horse and speckled horses now. Okay, so this is where we'll do the turn into the opposite direction. So getting into high potting horse on inspecting horse's mouth on this side, okay? Okay, so just to do that last wee bit again, coming towards you. Okay, so we'll do it from we'll just do it from that snake creeps down again. Okay, so the single whip stance, just a wee bit longer, pushing the heel out, right foot in there. Okay. So that's our final position there. So in this section, the main thing that you're looking at is that you haven't really encountered before, I suppose, is that we after the turn you do the kick, and then you're going down into that section where there's just a wee bit longer stances, you know. So it's like when we do the kick and we come down into this position here, then it's really rooting into the right leg as much as you can, getting that heel out as far as it will go, so when you come forward you're a wee bit more lower than you're used to being, you know. And the same with the second step in that sequence, you know. Again, when you get into this position here, you're maximum in, really getting that heel out, sinking down into this leg, and then coming up into your grasping the sparrow's tail. So that's the main difference in that section. You've already looked at snake creep down earlier on, so you know what the elements of that are. So the thing really to concentrate on when you're building up the sequence is just that technique where it gets a wee bit lower as we go on. So I think we'll leave it for there this week, and enjoy your practice, and I will take it up to the end of the form next week. We'll have a wee celebration, we'll get a cake. So I hope everyone's well, and I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you soon anyhow with this, we get these outdoor classes together, okay? So take care and stay happy.